All right, well, this may be a little different for some of you. We're going to talk about pants. And I know that's weird, but if you're into hunting at all, there's a lot of high-end brands out there. And today I'm going to be looking at a comparison of the Kuiu Attack pant and the Sitka, the lightweight Traverse pant. They're very kind of similar focused designs. They're more kind of a lightweight hunting-oriented pant. So both of these are from two fairly high-end, reputable hunting apparel manufacturers. I own several pieces of Kuiu gear, a couple of pairs of different weights of their insulated underwear and long sleeve shirts. I've also got one of their little beanie caps. I really like their quality. And I've got a couple of pieces of Sitka gear. I've got a match set top and bottoms in this. This is their Subalpine camo pattern. I do like this. This is a early season camo pattern with a lot of green in it. I really like that. And you can see I went for a dark hunter green in the Kuiu pant too. Where I hunt, and when I hunt, I tend to be in a place where a lot of the foliage is still on, and it's usually a little bit of green is helpful. I also got this color in the Kuiu because I thought, this would be a color that I could also still wear out, and I don't look too kind of pretentious. This pattern, this camo, you wear that out when you're not hunting and you just look like an idiot. Now, neither of these is cheap. I paid full price for the Sitka. Now, full disclosure, these are a couple years old. I bought these a couple years ago. These are brand new. Still got the tags on them. Bought these a couple years ago for like $150. I got these on sale. Kuiu had a big sale in November, and I got these for, I think, $110. And so these do retail for about the same. They're like $150, $160 in there. So again, very comparable cost and intent for both of these pants. And I figured, people would probably be cross-shopping these a lot, so I'd give you a little look at the two. Just as a comparison. I also would say one of the reasons I'm doing this is because when I was cross-shopping these, I couldn't find a ton of people that had both. And the video reviews and stuff that I saw was largely from vendors. So people who were basically, I don't know, I'm not going to say they had a vested interest, but they definitely seemed like they were selling both products. And I don't know. I figured, hey, maybe somebody wants to see a review from somebody that spent their own money, is going to give their honest thoughts on these two pairs of pants. So first thing, let's talk about weight. They're similar, but the Kuiu feels a bit heavier. I haven't actually weighed these. So let's pull out the scale and let's see if there's a weight difference. Some people are worried about how heavy or light their stuff is. So let's zero. So let's see if I can get these on there where you can see how much they weigh. So these 15-ish ounces. Let's just make sure that I'm getting these. Yeah, 14.8, 15 ounces for the Sitka pants. Let's see, the Kuiu may be a little different to get a good weight on those. About 19 ounces. So they are a little bit heavier. And that's what, whenever I picked them up, I felt like they were a little heavier. So yeah, 19 ounces there. So a little bit heavier weight. Now, as far as sizes, just so everybody is aware, these are 34s. The Sitkas nominally are 33s. So you're probably also going to be interested in fit. So let's measure these things and see how their waist measures. See, these do measure pretty much 34, I would say. So I'm getting about 17. So yeah, I mean, they are truly like a 33 to 34. I will also say that the Sitka has a little give, just a touch of stretch. So that 33 is kind of a 33 to 34, I would say, because there is a bit of stretch in that waist. So on these, I would say they don't feel like they have as much stretch. And when I tried them on, they don't feel quite as stretchy. Now, again, I don't want to say that the Sitka is a stretchy material. It's really not that much give, but there is just a touch. On these, again, they are nominally 34s, and I would say they measure just about right at 34 maybe just a touch over. So I would say these two, they do have very similar waist sizes. So the 34 in Kuiu does really measure out at about a 34. And the Sitka 33s, I would say, are a bit over 33, maybe close to 34. Keep in mind the Sitka I have been wearing for the past couple years, so that may influence their waist size a touch, but pretty comparable. Next up, let's talk inseam. Again, that's going to be your other main measurement. But this is a little tougher to measure because you kind of got to decide where you're going to take this measurement from exactly. So I'm going to try to find the dead center from the hem, the end of the hem to the middle, give a kind of precise leg. So I would say about 33 would be the dead center of the leg on the Sitka, and about 35 is where I'm going to call it on the Kuiu. So that lines up with my experience when I tried these on, that the Kuius do seem longer. So the waist is pretty close in these. The Kuiu does seem to have a longer leg on them. And so as far as your fit, you know, if you're measuring these for yourselves, I'd say somebody that's in that 33 to 34 inch waist is probably going to be fine in both of these. But the Kuiu is going to have a couple of inches longer in the leg. For better or worse, right? That just kind of depends on how you're built. I originally ordered a 32 for the Kuiu, and it was too tight in the waist. And since there's not that much give, I ended up exchanging them for these 34s. And the 34s do fit. I could get into the 32s, and I'm a pretty average size guy. You know, I'm 5'9", about 185. And so the 32s is where I thought I would be. But because there's no give at all, I did go with a 34. But that does come with the longer leg, and the Kuius to me are a touch too long for my build. I do wish that leg were an inch or two shorter and more square, because it does seem just a touch long for me. All right, so next up, let's look at the pockets and what you get on pockets on these. And I'm also going to cover like buttons and zippers and stuff. The buttons on the Sitka, you've got a metal button with this kind of flat webbing. And so it's pretty stout. You got a little bit of a flap there. The front zipper is kind of interesting because it's a double zipper. It zips down from the top, and it also zips up from the bottom. I don't really care that much about that. Some people may like that feature because, you know, you got kind of the ability to, I guess, zip up from the bottom and you know, take a leak or something. I've found that the more common issue for me is I'll grab these, and when I zip up, I end up with, you know, the barn door open, so to speak. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't really find that feature useful. I found it more problematic in that it leaves the front open more often than I actually find it useful. You've got your two main front pockets. They do have this kind of nice anti-abrasive material on the edge of their pockets, and that's for a knife clip, so that it doesn't really wear out. So that's a nice little feature if you have a knife with a knife clip to go on the edge of that. So you got your two main big pockets. You've also got these front like leg pockets that are mesh lined interior. There's one of those on each leg. On the back, you get one butt pocket on the back right butt. It's also zipped closed. I believe all the zippers are YKK. I don't know about the small ones. The main zipper on the front, this is definitely a YKK zipper on the main fly. So that's all your pockets on the Sitka. I will also say, as far as the belt loops, they're fairly heavy. There's double stitching at the corners where the main tear out points for most of the pockets. So you can see kind of a double stitch at the ends of your zippers. Pretty good heavy stitching on the top and the bottom of your belt loops. So everything seems, you know, fairly reinforced as far as all your pocket edges, your zipper edges. Everything's kind of double stitched and fairly heavy. The belt loops themselves, plenty big enough for a heavy belt. So this is a Hanks. If you're not aware of Hanks, they do like heavy duty belts for like gun holsters and stuff. You can see this is a very thick, it's like a 1/4 inch thick belt. It's 1.5 inches wide, and this thing has really no problems getting through the belt loop. Now, if you double it up, you know, it is going to be pretty tight, but you can get it through there. So you are going to be able to get a fairly thick 1.5 inch belt through these loops without problem. Moving over to the Kuiu. Again, very similar in the construction, but the button is plastic instead of metal. It's still got that flat webbing, and there's some pretty good reinforcement here inside of the zipper seam itself. You got that big flat webbing there. So pretty tough construction, I would say. Again, you get a lot of reinforcement stitching. Now this is contrasting and the color's a lot easier because it's not camo, but you can see where they've added these reinforcement stitches, top of the loops here at the edge of their pockets. You also see that reinforced stitch. So that's a nice touch. So the front zipper is also a YKK zipper. There's no pull strings on these, so these zippers are, that's all you get is just a little tab on the main zipper. They do have some pull tabs on their other zippers though. So, you know, they do add them some places, just not on the main fly. You get your 2 front pockets. The inside is this really soft mesh, which is nice. These do kind of float a little bit more on the inside, where the Sitka is kind of stitched into the pant. These float a little bit more. So you got your 2 big front pockets. You've got 2 zipper pockets on the thighs. So again, same mesh material inside. Fairly big pockets, I would say. The pockets seem to be just a touch bigger maybe than on the Sitka. So again, you got your thigh pockets on each side. You've got 2 butt pockets with kind of a flap on them and the zipper. Now, these are kind of the main material of the pant. They're not that mesh, really. But you do get 2, 1 on each side, and they do have that flap to cover them with the pull zipper. In addition, one thing that the Kuiu pants have is this side liner mesh there, and this is basically an exhaust vent. And so if you get hot, you can zip open this side seam. Now, you can see I'm kind of having trouble because that mesh wants to get hung up in this zipper. So that's kind of a pain, but you do have it in case you need it. You can unzip the side, and there's one of those on the outside of each thigh. All right, so your outside thigh you can zip. There's nothing in the crotch. There's no zippers or anything there in case you were curious if they had any heat venting. But again, good heavy stitching, reinforced at all the loops, at all the zipper ends, at all your pocket edges. So very good construction, I would say, over here. I'm not very worried about these holding up or tearing that easy. So on the belt loop test, again, plenty of room. I would say maybe even a bit more room on these belt loops compared to the Sitka. But, you know, plenty of room for a 1.5 inch thick, heavy leather belt. So plenty of room if that's a problem, because it could make your belt really loose. That's just something to know about. One thing, by the way, I just noticed on the Sitka is on the butt seam itself. So this is the back of the pants. The seam that runs down through the butt is actually the strong zigzag reinforced stitching. So that's kind of interesting. So your butt's not going to blow out as easy because they've added yet another extra stitch there. Again, neither one of these seems like that's going to be a big problem. The way the Kuius are made is different. It doesn't have a continuous seam up the back, but it is a very heavy kind of double layered seam through the back and the crotch. So again, neither one of them I don't think are going to have any real problems with tearing at the seams. On that, let's get to some more subjective stuff. The next thing I'm going to look at is kind of sound. So here's the sound that the fabric makes, like when you're walking. This is pretty important, right? If you're trying to be quiet, get into your stand or stalking or something, you know, does that sound loud? Well, let's give it a comparison with Kuiu. I would say neither one of these are exceptionally noisy, but the Kuiu feels just a touch louder. But again, fairly comparable. Yeah, I would say that the Kuiu makes just a touch more noise, but overall, I think that's because the material is a little stiffer on the Kuiu. Now, it's not as broken in. I haven't washed these. I haven't worn them. Again, these are used, so that may play into it. However, overall, the Sitka is a lighter material, and it does feel it's just more flexible. It's more lightweight. It's a little more breathable. The Attack pant here, a little stiffer, a heavier material. They do weigh more, and it's a bit coarser, the texture. I'm trying to see if you can see that. There's a bit more texture on the fabric compared to the Sitka. It's a bit smoother fabric on the Sitka material. So as far as noise, I think the Sitka is going to be just a touch quieter, although neither one of them make that really loud kind of hiking pant scrape sound. So to illustrate, by the way, I went and grabbed some Columbia pants, and these you can just feel by handling them how loud they are. And you get a lot less noise out of either of these, just the handling of them, because the way the fabric's made is just a little less, again, of that synthetic kind of nylon when you walk, right? So they are a little quieter than that, but they're not like super soft touch. And I would give a bit of the edge to the Sitka pant on the noise level. The last thing I'll kind of talk about, because I think that's about all I can really show you, is overall kind of what I think about both of these. I actually think I may be sending the Kuius back. I think after trying them on, there are a couple of things that I just don't like as well about them, to the point where I just think it may be a deal breaker for me. I think they're made extremely well. I mean, there is no doubt the quality, they are heavy. And I'm not saying they're heavy. I'm saying they're well made. The material feels nice. It feels very sturdy, and the inside's nice and soft. But it doesn't have really any give to it. And when you put them on, to me, they didn't fit great. I'd say that, that waist, again, that was one of the things I noticed with the original pair I got, that 32. There's just no give. And the way they're cut feels a little tight. The legs are a little too long for me. Like I said, they do measure at almost a 35 inseam, 34, 35 inseam. And so they feel to me more like they're made for a slimmer person. And where that kind of catches you, it's not that I'm some great big fat guy. It's that, if these are hunting pants and they're lightweight and it gets cooler, you're probably going to want to add some insulated underwear. And to me, the Kuius felt a little too tight to where they probably wouldn't be that comfortable to me. Now, that's something that's going to be pretty personal. And, maybe that's not going to be a problem for you. You'd have to try them on for yourself. But I just found them to be a little too tight. And the area where it really bugged me was like through the thighs. So I don't know if this will hold up. I may get just humiliated here. But let me see if I can get like a thigh measurement on these. You'll see right here kind of through the thigh, we're getting about 11 inches there. At that thigh. So let me see if this is just in my head. It might just be in my head, but let's measure the Sitkas and see how they measure through that thigh area. Okay, through a very similar zone in the thigh, and they're just a touch more. It's not much, it's like a ½ inch, but they feel a bit more generously cut, and it could just be, the pair I got, or it could be the way I'm built. But that little touch of extra room kind of all over, the Sitkas feel just a bit more comfortable. They're a little more lightweight and breathable feeling. They've got that little bit of give. I will say also the material is lighter feeling, but it's got this nice inside texture that's nice and soft. I feel like they're not as heavy. And potentially they're not going to be as durable, right? I haven't walked through a lot of brush, so I can't tell you whether they're going to hold up if you're walking through thorns and stuff. If I had to guess, I would say that the Kuius probably would hold up a little bit better to, like, if you're doing brush popping and stuff like that, because the material feels a bit tougher. But that's both good and bad. It feels a little stiffer too. By the way, the pant legs, the cuffs are very similar openings. I would say they're about the same as far as, are you going to be able to get these over your boots? Yeah, probably both of them. Again, I think the Sitkas have it by just a touch. You know, they're just a little bit bigger. So yeah, that's kind of my overall on these. Is the Sitka to me is a bit more comfortable, just a touch roomier. And for me, the Kuius felt just a little too tight, and especially like that leg being long. That extra 2 inches is a big deal because that makes it bunch up around the top of your boot more. And it just, I don't know, you feel like a kid wearing your dad's pants or something, right? They're just a little too long for me. Now, they are technically a 1 inch nominal larger size in the waist, and so they should be a little longer. But I found it would be like a couple inches longer, and you can't really vary the length. These aren't like jeans, right? You basically order them by waist, and then they come in the length they come. So to me, overall, I'm going to lean toward the Sitka rather than the Kuiu pant here. It's just, to me, it's a little bit better overall. Now, there are features that I like about the Kuiu. I do like it feels durable and well-made, but to me, like I said, I think I'm going to have to give it to the Sitka. And I think I may return these and just get my money back. I do want to finish up by saying that is not to say that Kuiu doesn't make good stuff. This is not a quality issue. They're very well made. And if they fit you, if you're probably more of a taller, leaner guy, maybe check the Kuius out. You may really like them. They may fit you great. Me, I got a little bit more, junk in the trunk maybe than some people. A little bit bigger thighs, where my thick kings at. To me, they're a bit too tight. I do have several other pieces of Kuiu gear, and I like all of it. By the way, let me give you a plug. If you're looking for insulated underwear, if you're looking for wool shirts, their merino stuff, fantastic. I like every piece I got. But yeah, I got to give it to the Sitka Traverse pant. To me, it's just better. Now, not by much. And again, if you're built different, you might change your preference. But I think that's what I'm going to go with. So that's it for this one. I know it's kind of an odd review. Reviewing clothing is definitely not my thing. However, again, since I found it kind of tough to find direct head-to-head comparisons on these two pants from people that spent their own money on them, I thought maybe you'd find that useful. So that's my feedback. If you got any other questions, please let me know in the comments. Thanks.